Hello and welcome back to Sprouted Dreams. This week, I thought that we would create from scratch a bench. And I just have sort of all of my bench parts here, and you could watch me sort through the process of how I choose the pieces to sort of match together and then how I build the bench from there. It's always nice to have a piece of just plywood, a small piece that you might like, or some of these unique shapes that are already in slices. Some of these I have sanded already as well. And so they're kind of ready. Well, let's look at these two maybe. And I have lots of my twisty pieces of wood that I often use as armrests or backrests. And, oh, I remember this piece. I started to put some epoxy in here. This is going to be a very elaborate bench, and because of the way it's shaped, it's going to need just legs on one side. That might be for another video, a different day. I also have these pieces. They were going to be other things, and somehow they didn't work out. This one was going to be a swing, and since it has these holes in here, those would either need to be filled or obviously use it for a different swing. And it has a little word. Can you see that? Fairies on the top. I think the eyes did not stay. I don't know. I could either sand that off or add eyes, you know, the dots. Can you see that? The dots on the eyes have not stayed. So I don't know. This one might be interesting. I kind of played, there's a couple of these pieces. They have some varnish on them already. I was playing with adding little beads and jewelry pieces and moss to the wood slices. This one is very unique. Because it was an idea that didn't really go anywhere. But look, maybe that, no, maybe. I'm thinking of like a throne. This one might become, maybe that should be the back. No, that doesn't really go yet. Well, unless we went smaller. So let's look through. We'll set this aside. These two are set aside. I have already set aside a few chubby legs. Now you can always use just a stick. This one's a little narrow, but you can use just regular pieces of wood and cut them to sides. But sometimes it's handy to have these little stubby pieces if you want to do something a little bit different. So I have those kind of set aside. And twisty wood. I love this piece of wood. I sanded it flat. I was going to put it on a door once. It is a dried piece of cacti, and I love this wood. All the holes in it, but it hasn't really fit anywhere yet, so it's in that. This could be cut into either a seat base or a bench base, but also this way for a backrest. Oh, look at that. That might look nice. All right, we'll leave that one out. Oh! I have a few. Maybe. Oh. No. I don't want to play with that one today. So you see how you just have to kind of get an idea of what you want to make and then build from there. I'm thinking either a throne piece with this one and make that into a throne. I would love for this to work, but I would have to narrow this down almost. I don't think that that shape works either. Maybe a round piece. So maybe something like that, but this sticking out doesn't look good. Maybe another disc. Let me see. How about that sort of shape? An unusual shape with it. This doesn't quite work. No. That's the only one that really goes. Let me look at another disc for this one. Have my little container here of discs. I would need a big one. I don't know that I have a big enough disc cut for that. These are all kind of small. Well, all right. Let's forget about the throne then. We're going to put this and this away because I'm getting kind of hung up on that. Let's stick with the flat bench. And I'm putting the discs back. So we're onto this one. I really liked this piece here, but this is oak and it's fairly thick. This is cottonwood, I believe. Might be sycamore. It's very light. I think it's cottonwood. And if I put this oak back on the cottonwood, it's going to tip all the time. And I would have to reconfigure the weight issue. So this is very pretty, but it probably won't function easily. It's going to make a lot more work for myself. So let's see, a back for this piece. Maybe some kind of curved piece of wood? No. Let's see, maybe... Maybe... No, another piece? Oh, well, no. Oh, where's that thin one? This is very light. Aha, look at that. That makes a very nice bench. Maybe a little better this way. Aha. That's not bad. And if we wanted to add something with more detail, we could on the sides. All right, I like that. That's what we're going to do there. Now for legs, either, like I mentioned, you can just use a stick leg, which might look nice, or we could go with a chubbier leg. I really like this kind of twisty piece here. Love that. Or that. Yeah, we can do something with this. And maybe this side here as well. Ooh, yes, this and this. Yes, all right, those two work. Now, for feet, do we want a chubby foot? I think a little, just a plain stick, because this, if I put a really chubby foot on this and unique ones, it sort of takes away from this very elaborate armrest and top that we have. So I think that we're going to go with just a basic stick foot, thicker than this, obviously. I'll bring some more in. But I'm going to go ahead and get the sticks, and then we'll look and see where we need to sort of cut any pieces for this bench. Okay, I found some sticks that I think will work. I want kind of a heavier foot on this. I don't want it to be very narrow. So I use wire cutters on these smaller pieces because it's just sort of handy and I don't have to get a saw out or anything. And I will cut them generously so that if I need more, I can sand it down or recut. Just have to be very careful. I will say if you end up needing to take length off of stick legs, whether it's on a chair or a bench or whatever, if you put it on your belt sander, boy, those suckers just pop right off. So be sure that it is glued well and that you give it some stabilization, either with another block of wood kind of chunked in between your legs or something, because I can't tell you how many pieces I have entirely finished, thought, oh, it doesn't sit quite right, I'm just going to fix the balance on this, and the darn leg breaks off, and I have to redo the entire thing. That really is a drag. Also, on your sticks here, I just grabbed these from outside. So some of these have the bark already off, but like this one clearly, or this one you can see very well, this will have to have the bark taken off. Always take the bark off of your natural wood pieces because no matter what you think, it's going to eventually want to shed that bark. And even if you have varnish over the top, it's just going to make a big mess for later on. So be sure that you peel all your bark pieces. If you can't peel it off with your fingers like this, you know, use a tool or go to your sander so that you absolutely get all of these little chunks of bark off of any of your wood pieces. See, like this oak piece that we talked about, it has all of the bark off of it. Those actually go back in my little box, so I will move those. And what I thought we could do, I grabbed a couple other little twisty pieces of wood in case these don't work. Whoops, this one goes away. Okay, so what we can do to start with is glue the back to the bench seat, because now do I want this side to show or this side to show? I think I like this side. And do I want it on this side or this side? Nope, this way. So try your pieces just like a puzzle. Every little piece needs to be kind of formatted to the other, and that's going to sit there pretty nice. I will say, maybe this would go better. It might fit a little flatter. Yes. All right, we're going to have to go that way. All right, I am going to go ahead and glue that and clamp it, and then we will be ready to drill. I'll put that in fast motion. I'm going to drill the 4 legs for the bottom. So I will do that in quick motion. Okay, I'm hoping that you can see what happened here. Now these legs are probably going to be too long and they'll be taken down. I like to leave this little, see how on the stick there are little side branches that might come out, and I like to leave those at the base. That gives a little bit more of a foot to the bench leg. So I really like that look. So I try as best I can to get those on the bottom, but many times they are actually sanded off. This one looks like it's going to be the right size, and then this one will probably be taken down, so I left that foot a little bit above where this would be. This one, I think I went too short. I can't really tell until I take the clamps off, but in addition to that, so I will need to take, another stick, then find a spot that has that little foot, and then make sure that it's longer than this one by a bit, which this would be. So this is probably going to be the one. I'll peel this bark off and then use that in the front here. This one's too long, but it doesn't want to fit in the base. I wanted to show you also, see how you're looking at the bottom of the bench here. So the legs don't go straight like this, because you're going to have a hard time with stability then. You want to kind of flare the legs so that they go out a little bit rather than straight, because this helps your bench to balance itself better, because we're working with very odd pieces. Oh my goodness, look, I engraved a little fairy on the bottom there. I guess I should have put that on the front. Oh well, it'll probably come out when I varnish. You won't see it so much, or it'll be a surprise for whoever purchases this bench. I didn't know I did that. That's funny. Maybe I'll engrave a little fairy on the back. That'd be cool. I could take my laser and burn the little fairy maybe on this back side. That would be super cool. Maybe we'll do that. So there. See, as you're working, other things get you inspired. So I am going to go ahead and, let's see, this is the back leg. I am going to make this the front leg because I think this one is too short. So I'm going to peel this off. Ooh, this is really thick here. Oh, it's broken there. All right. I'm going to cut this here, peel this bark off, and we'll use that. And I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, we have everything glued, and it's fairly dry. I did add a bit of the epoxy into the base here because these seemed a little bit not too stable. Of course, everything will dry a lot more by another 24 hours, but we're going to go ahead and keep working. I cut down those pieces that we looked at. So this is going to be the piece across the back. This one will be the arm piece that will kind of close in this side here. I'm not sure if I want that to go up a little bit and this to wrap around. I'd really like this piece to kind of wrap around this, but then I kind of get breakage there. So maybe I will sand that a bit more, but I want this piece to fit here. This piece to kind of go over the top like that. And then this one is going to be our side piece. This looks like the easiest piece to kind of apply. So I think I'm going to do that one first. And we will sand this down and get this where it just fits really nicely into this. There it is, right there. So that kind of goes into this little ridge here. And I really like the way that that fits. So a little bit of sanding to knock off any edges, and then I'll use this round file on the side here. Maybe a little extra on that edge there. You want it to be as flat as possible in there without taking away this unique shape of this piece of wood. I think it could go down a little bit more. And maybe even some with this what is this? 120. All right, that looks good. So that it has lots of space to grab the other piece. You don't want your wood glue to have nothing to sort of hang on to. Sorry if I'm shaking the camera a bit. Just want that to kind of sit on there. Ah, yes, that will work perfectly. And then I want to kind of blend this end in with the rest of the bench. You have to kind of play with your wood too, because some pieces really sand nicely with that heavy grade sandpaper. This stuff, what is it? 50 grit. And others really will respond actually better with a finer grit. It actually takes more off. It just kind of depends on the wood you're working with, and especially if, like me, you go to a creek to find your pieces of wood. We have a creek on our property, and I get a lot of wood out of there. And many times I don't know what type of wood it is, but I know from our area it's going to be pine, oak, cottonwood, willow, sycamore, or chestnut. All right, that looks great. I'm going to go ahead and glue that piece on, and that may need some clamping. So we're going to need a bigger clamp. Let's see here. And maybe a lighter clamp too. Oh, this is big but light. I kind of like this one. Let's see if, yes, that will work just fine. So let's put that on. And I wanted this longer piece here to go down toward the foot of the bench. Let's see if I can get a little more in there. Okay. So that's just going to fit right in there and brace into that one. Perfect. That way it looks like both sides have an armrest. And that's just going to have to sit there like that. So it's going to be a while before I can do the other pieces. So we'll let this dry and I'll be back to glue on these other armrests and the backrest decoration piece. Okay, this is just barely set here, but I'm going to go ahead and put this next one on. I think like this. I want this other piece to kind of mimic this shape here so that it fits really nice. So I want that piece to kind of set down with this knob of this armrest into this little inset here. And I kind of want it to tilt up. That almost fits perfectly. That's not going to need a lot of sanding. Maybe just a little bit right there to kind of have that sit into that hole a little bit more. That looks just about perfect, just like that. Okay. I'm going to put the glue on and we will get that clamped and ready to go as well. Just be sure you use plenty of glue, and anywhere if you feel that there is some sort of spot where any dissimilar surface is not sitting well, you can always add more glue and then fill it with sawdust, or you can add 2-part epoxy and see if that gives you the stability. Obviously, there's not going to be a full-sized human sitting on this bench, so I have a bit more wiggle room with my gluing and adherence of the two dissimilar surfaces, rather than if you actually had weight bearing on these pieces. Oops, I lost my clamp. All right, I'm going to clamp this and then we'll come back and put the last piece on. Okay, all of our glued places are put together, and I looked at the back here thinking about that idea of lasering the fairy that was kind of on the bottom here onto the back, and I just was not super keen on that idea. And I thought of taking like and embossing this bird onto the back with maybe a copper or something, but I think that this has so many unique natural shapes to it that if I would change now, I think it's going to detract from the beauty. So I'm going to keep going with just putting this together. I tried to make sure it's balanced now, the legs, but this side honestly looks a little bit taller. Where is my level? So it may not be perfectly level. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm going to have to take these down a bit. But I will do that on the sander or even by hand. Or I also have a grinder. If you have a Dremel, that can also work as well. You just have to be careful that you don't split or spin your legs off. Sounds like a crazy bad date. Don't spin your legs off. But I am going to go ahead and continue with the process. And so I've got my piece of wood here. When you get it all together, it does change a bit. So I was thinking that this was really going to fit here like this, and somehow this piece here looks a little weird. I'm not sure if I want to sand that down, or what. So maybe a little sanding. Usually when I'm kind of unsure about things, I will take a picture and then put it into Photoshop and kind of play with different ideas of how I could alter the area that I'm thinking of. But it's harder to do with shapes than it is with like color or larger, just sort of like if I wanted this to come up higher or something, putting another piece behind it or whatever. So something small like this within the design is a little bit awkward that way, but I guess it looks okay just like that. So we will go ahead and glue that up. And I do think maybe, well, like I said, I don't know. I just don't know. Oh, this is another reason why it might be higher too, is this is thicker here than it is here. This is thick there, see? So it's going to kind of slope down anyway. Well, we can definitely take these down a bit. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch on these two legs. All right, let's glue. I will say that sometimes this tight bond glue, the nozzle will work for me. And then other times, it just doesn't. I try to keep it clean. You can take the lid off and rinse it, but many times you'll see me just take the lid off and use a stick or something. At the moment, it's clear and working. And the next moment, it will be clogged and not working. So that's just glue. All of them, they all gum up, and it drives me crazy. All right. Not really sure how I had this. I had this tilted kind of, and that around there. Okay. See, there's not going to be a lot of points where this is going to have contact. So I can't really sand. I almost think maybe we should go with a epoxy instead. Yes, let's do epoxy. Change of plan. I'm going to get some paper. Okay, I hope that you see that as I'm building these pieces, they do sort of change from your original idea or what you thought you were going to do or what you think you will be doing next. It all sort of gets altered as the process goes. And that's just totally fine. And if it doesn't work, you can pry these things apart and re-glue, or if you have something that just didn't look beautiful when you get it all together or the balance isn't right, you can tweak things to a certain extent, or just learn from that process and then do better the next time. Honestly, I mean, that's all any of us can do. I did not really start out working with wood. I didn't ever really get along with wood. Carpentry and things like that. Straight angles and mathematics and all that. Ugh, just hated it. And once I started working with pieces that are shaped like this, instead of, you know, perfectly level or perfectly angled, then I really started to enjoy working with wood. So find what you like. If you really enjoy math and measuring and using your level and things like that, absolutely go that route. But for me, working a bit more abstract made the whole process so much more enjoyable and workable for me. That's what really got me into working with wood. And you can start with simple tools. Many of the tools I use are just from Harbor Freight, not expensive, and you can start with even just a handsaw and simple sandpaper, and that epoxy's in the wrong spot. And what else? Maybe just even hand tools. Sometimes I am unable to get the pieces that I need cut in the shop, and I will have to go somewhere specifically where I can run my bigger saws or sanders. But I bet that you can find somewhere you can do the big stuff and then bring all the small pieces into even a studio apartment where you can assemble, and that doesn't make a whole lot of noise. All right, we have this glued on. The legs are done. I will wait for this to dry, and then we will go on with perhaps a little bit of metallics with the embossing powder. I'm not sure, but maybe a little bit of highlighting. We'll see. All right, I'll be back when this is dry. Well, here is the bench with one coat of varnish on it, and I believe that this looks very nice and natural like this without the design of the fairy on the back. I really looked at it. I designed it, put it on the laser, mapped it all out, and I just think that it would kind of detract, once this is all nice and shiny everywhere, from the beauty of the wood. So I'm not going to put a design back here. I am going to go ahead and complete the varnishing process, but I wanted to show you one more thing about the legs when you sand. So here is my belt sander. Hopefully I can get it into frame here. This is just Harbor Freight belt sander. It has, let's see if I can get this off here. Sorry for the shake. But I wanted to mention one more thing about the legs here so that you are able to sand yours. This is my sander here. It's just from Harbor Freight. It has a disc sander here and then a belt sander here. And I just wanted to show you on here when you use this part of the belt sander. As you can see here, there's a roller on this part, and then underneath this belt, it's a hard surface, metal underneath. And so between this roller and this hard part, there's a little gap. See, I can put my finger in there. So there's kind of a softer spot between the roller and your hard surface. Find somewhere on your sander that has a place with a little bit of give, and then when you place your bench onto the sander here, you can gently put it on there without the vibration. The vibration of the sander on the roller and the hard part gives this kind of blah, and your legs will just go flying off. So you want to kind of find a spot where you can gently sand, or like I mentioned, use a Dremel, use a file, use sandpaper, but you want to support the legs as much as you can while you're taking their size down. Otherwise, you're just going to have a repeated problem of your legs actually coming off, which is really frustrating. So I hope that helps you to create your own beautiful bench, and I will see you again next week. Until then, very happy fairy gardening to you.